Welcome back again to another episode. Today we're looking at Birth of a Giant, Call of Duty. Now we all know the impact that Call of Duty has had on modern gaming, the competitive scene, and just the good multiplayer games with friends. This juggernaut that we all know and love got its start way back in 2003. A bunch of people who used to work on the Medal of Honor series left the studio and formed the now legendary Infinity Ward, taking the familiar world of World War II shooters by storm, changing the formula, making it feel more cinematic, focusing on larger battles and moving away from the classic trope of being a one-man army. And the game does what it sets out to do, and then some. Gameplay is fun and at times very intense. And to heighten that intensity, I'm kicking an old school on this one and displaying OG COD in all its 4-3 glory. Another new idea compared to the rival Medal of Honor games is COD was one of the first World War II series to have to fill the boots of many soldiers from not just the USA, but Britain and also Russia, all with their own missions that feel different and unique in their own ways. From living the life of an airborne soldier to being a part of the early SAS adventures to being a soldier fighting for the Russians. It definitely takes hold of you and pulls you in with its gameplay, world building, and frankly phenomenal atmosphere. Now don't quote me on this, but I believe Call of Duty was one of the first games that introduced simulated PTSD with the ear ringing and that shock effect from explosions and heavy gunfights. It's kind of overblown nowadays, but I really like how it was implemented in the original. Solid and not too far out or wacky like it is in newer games. Now I did happen upon this back in the day, but I only played through that famous first level as having more than demos in 2000 cost money. So I played that first level time and time again. That quiet airdrop that quickly breaks into a chaotic gunfight as you cross the field, heightened by the sound design. Man, this opener is friggin' amazing. I thought it might be fun playing the original Call of Duty after all these years and going back to where it all started. Now, at time of recording, that start happened over 22 years ago. Now, a quiet note between you and me, if you've tried any of the old school Medal of Honor games, they have my least favourite mechanic, which was the style at the time, good old-fashioned screen shake. But thankfully, Infinity Ward has toned it down here significantly to where it's mild and not a massive pain. Out of the gate, this classic is way more approachable. Now we start this adventure on normal. No health regen back in the day, so the medium skill is a pretty good place to start. Our journey begins at Camp Toccoa, Washington, training with those airborne boys, learning to shoot, lean and throw grenades. Now fairly solid stuff, just getting used to the game's core mechanics. Our first big mission takes us to Normandy as you step into the boots of an airborne soldier being dropped into Sainte-Mère-Église to support the Allied landings at D-Day. First stop is to set up a beacon for our buddies to land. Sneak our way to a clearing, plant that very same beacon, but are almost immediately ambushed by a German patrol. So with the help of your squad, you clear nearby buildings, tangling with some machine gun nests as you go, fight in close quarters and relying on our old buddy, the Thompson. Once we clear that landing zone, we're now on to part 2 of the Sainte-Mère-Église level, the level that I played when I was much younger and far more ginger. Now with our squad reunited, we have to cross an open farm field and assault a nearby hotel, and take it from those pesky Germans. The sound of the guns gives this fight some real bite. Clearing out the houses is very cathartic. The shooting is punchy and gives solid damage feedback, making the moment-to-moment gameplay feel very fun and very fluid. Next up, we have to clear Sainte-Mère-Église of its AA guns as we make our way through the town. Fighting both sides, dealing with some assaults, machine guns, and strong pockets of resistance. This level really gets the pulse pumping as you fight for your life to clear the area. Infinity Ward, we really are cooking out the gate with this gameplay loop. Once we take out the last of the AA guns and finally get a hold of the church, we cut to daybreak with the squad being shelled and under heavy tank attack after those pesky panzers managed to burst through, and we now have to fight our way back to the church to get our hands on a Panzerfaust. But those pesky Germans want to take the church from us, so both you and your squad now yet again have to hold the church from a bunch of German assaults, while also helping you boys get rid of those enemy tanks. The AI in this game is fairly decent. Now they do push you, they are quite aggressive. With a lot of the modern shooters, I feel like there are invisible walls in place to keep the player safe. But with these older games, I feel like those walls aren't there yet, making the gameplay a lot harder but also a lot more enjoyable. Another infantry assault taken care of and some more tanks, and Private Martin and his squad desperately managed to hold on to this section. But now they have to go after the mortar teams that have been harassing them this whole time. Unfortunately, we are immediately shredded by MG42s, but luckily for us, some geezer left me a scope Kar98K to give me the tools to help me get across that pesky open field, allowing us to finally link up with some friendlies. Now the Sarge, Private Martin, and another private now have to do a runner back to Allied lines after they borrow a nice French car. Now next up in our story, the boys fight through the French countryside, dodging German roadblocks, some tank fire, and in between the houses. This level is really quite intense and I really enjoyed myself. The classical score in the background blasting while you run your Thompson hot, it's one hell of a spectacle that feels like an ode to joy. The boys have their nice joyride ruined by a tank, so now we have to ditch on foot and fight our way through the town. But thankfully for me, weapons carry over, and that Kar 98K that I picked up earlier makes my life so much easier, as it lets me handle peeking enemies that keep popping up. The boys manage to steal a German vehicle. Luckily we make it back to Allied lines, and the Sarge and the boys report to Major Shepard on the status of their buddies. Once the Sarge is done briefing the Major, some of his men reinforce us, and we all head over to some pesky 88mm guns that are chilling nearby. We approach the guns, and I learn a faithful lesson to keeping my head down, as I immediately get smoked, popping my head out to check the surrounding area. Covering Sarge as he pulls a wounded man from the field, we make a dicey push on the guns, getting close enough to leave some explosives on the barrels. We can finally move on to the next area and secure the surrounding farmhouses. In a shock to no one, taking the farm, we are immediately counterattacked. Another great section personally, making slow progress clearing the area, dealing with tough pockets of resistance is so very satisfying, and the game really starts to click to me now. You have your rifle for accuracy and your trusty Thompson or MP40 for close quarters. This mission ends with the destruction of the last 88mm gun in the area. Now onto the next chapter of our European tour. We cut to Sarge leading an assault team about to hit the nearby German chateau. We are introduced to John Browning's Beast, the Browning automatic rifle. With its 20-round punchy box magazine, a real running and gunning treat. The squad fight their way up to the chateau, fighting through German reinforcements as we approach the first of many houses that we have to sweep for the Germans, see if those pesky buggers left any plans or radios lying around. The houses are tense fighting, as the Germans are hiding around corners and peeking from corridors, making the house-to-house fighting really intense, and again our old buddy the Thompson is a godsend for close encounters. Once we find some plans that we're looking for in the top floor of one of the nearby bedrooms, we now must head back out, but are immediately set on by reinforcements. Another short scrap and we head down to the basement. We come across the infamous Captain Price, now the OG Captain Price. I wonder canonically if he's related to the current Captain Price or it's a James Bond situation and it's a code name. Anyways, one's clearing out the area for Price to make his escape. Now the team is heading for the prison camp where Captain Price's buddy, Major Ingram, is being held. Our old friend Private Martin, being the absolute chad that he is sent ahead of the team to take out guards on the approach, making it safe for them to roll on up. Marty takes down the sentries, the boys roll on in a stolen German truck, and we now must make it desperately dastardly dash through the camp, searching for the Major before those German reinforcements arrive. This section is by far one of my favourite in the game. The tension from the ticking down time as you move through the camp with enemies coming from both sides, as you have to hold them off and cut a path to the Major. The camp mission is another pulse pounder. One small gunfight later and we track the Major down to the holding cells in the rear of the camp. But unfortunately our victory is short-lived. The Germans aren't going to let us leave so easily. We face a new bunch of enemies as we desperately fight our way out. We always keep an eye on the clock as our buddy Marty and his boys make it back to the truck and finally escape with the Major. We now step into the shoes of Sergeant Evans, a British paratrooper / Bren Gunner that is attached to Captain Price's unit. The first British mission as it's heading to Caen to assist in the D-Day landings by taking and holding bridges and slowing any reinforcements that are trying to get beachside. The mission begins with us being dropped near a bridge with our team, so we all muster up and assault it and find it in good perfect order. But almost immediately the Germans counterattack, so we go and find the team engineer Private Mills, and we both backtrack to a German 88 that we passed earlier and turn it on those pesky Germans. After using the gun to push back the night assault, the boys get some rest and went on to our next mission, which hard cuts to daybreak, as we are informed by Price that we have to hold the bridge until reinforcements arrive. We are hit with major mortar fire and accurate enemy fire, making this one hell of a tough day. The mission puts in our hands by far my favourite bolt action of the war, the short magazine infield and the Bren, both British icons, which prove solid tools in the fight to hold the bridge. But unfortunately for us, we get pushed back across the bridge. We come under heavy tank attack, so we got to make use of those conveniently left behind Panzerfaust to deal with the tanks, and our old friend the Bren to hold off the troopers. As we get deeper into the mission, we come to its final sequence. You and your squad must hold the bridge for a full 15 minutes. Now, it was at this point that I started to take advantage of the game's save system. This final fight is tough with the tanks and the soldiers constantly pushing you, and tanks being a one-shot. Surviving the sequence is both fun and tense and a bit tough. But just as things manage to seem at their absolute worst, reinforcements arrive and help us clear the area. Now the music really picks up here, filling me with hand-on-your-heart action movie vibes. And our good friends at British Command are so impressed with Sergeant Evans, they transfer him to 3 Troop and begin working for his legendary commander, voiced by Jason Statham. Our first assignment, we're off to Eder Dam to take out some anti-aircraft guns protecting the area. We find ourselves at Eder Dam advancing through the woods, as we snipe unsuspecting guards as we go. Coming to the dam, I'm kind of blown away by the visuals and scale of the place. It's a massive, massive structure, fully open environment, which to me at least was incredibly impressive. Clear out a few more enemy patrols and some more AA guns for the dam, and we head below to hunt down that last AA gun. Now we got a lot of wide open areas with plenty of open spots for enemies to hide, but also a lot of fun combat opportunities as we snipe enemies at range, spraying those fools that are dumb enough to get close. Just a little side note to mention my least favorite shooter mechanic from the early 2000s, flinching. Again, thankfully not too bad here, but a lot of games at the time were notorious for it. I'm looking at you, Medal of Honor. Anyways, we finally managed to clear out the last AA gun at the bottom of the dam, but now we have to hoof it all the way back up and out to the exit, backtracking the way we came, but thankfully we make it to the top of the dam and fight our way back to the truck and manage to escape. They were all sitting there waiting for me. Lazy sods making me do all the work. The next mission sees the 3 Troop chap and myself are now being aggressively chased by Germans. Dodging and destroying pursuing enemy trucks, bikes and all sorts, we end up at a nearby airfield. So Price and the 3 Trooper head off to find an escape plane, where we man the nearby AA guns, keeping the bombers off us and stopping them from destroying our plane. This section, let me tell you, is a bit hairy. You have to keep an eye out for the Germans up high, but also leave yourself enough time to shoot down bombers trying to turn you into pancakes. The boys finally managed to score us a plane, so now we chase it down on the runway, finally making it aboard, and the game hard cuts to black, as we awake to Price and ourselves both in German uniforms with plans to destroy a nearby vessel. Sneaking on board, Price manages to fill us in on the finer details of our little escapade. We're planting explosives around the ship to destroy it. Deception is going well, but we're quickly discovered and Price is killed. So now it falls to us to make our way around the ship, planting the remaining explosives. There's a ton of spots for enemies to hide around the ship, which means you really need to be prepared for anyone popping out at you. Dodging death more than once, we finally get to the bridge and secure some ship plans and manage to blow up their radio. With all our objectives complete, it's now time to fight our way back out. Now the real danger here is sightlines. Enemies will be hiding in taking pot shots at you from around the ship while also trying to sneak up on you. After a few failed attempts, I just said air and booked it straight to the boat. As we sail off into the night and triumphantly watch the boat go up in flames. And that, ladies and gentlemen, takes us to the Russian campaign, which immediately transports us to the blood-stained shores of Stalingrad as we step into the boots of a Russian conscript on a boat heading to the shores of Stalingrad. Looking around, we see his comrades are terrified and the Germans are strafing and shelling the boats. All while their own officers proclaim, "Not one step back. Cowards will be shot." Surviving the brutal crossing, we luckily manage to make it ashore, only to step off into a new fresh hell. A very steep approach that is being swept by German machine guns and under heavy artillery fire. We desperately climb up, but we are stopped by a Sergeant Borodrin, as he talks us into being bait for him, going cover to cover to bait out the machine guns blocking their path. Why not? So in between the reloading of the guns, we desperately sprint across the open as we're shot at giving our buddy the time that he needs to take that lucky shot. Now after all that fun, we make it to a nearby building that's housing a commissar, which thankfully calls in artillery and we get to charge the enemy, which takes us into our next mission. The level begins with us across from a strong German position in the square. The officers sound the charge as we frantically try to survive the onslaught. I manage to find a rifle on one of the soldiers killed, and we somehow manage to make it across the square and spot our friend from earlier, as he beckons us toward him as he's found a flanking route to avoid the chaos outside. Upon entering the building, we find the PPSH-41, known as the Russian bullet hose. It's fantastic for room clearing and just a cool weapon in general. Fantastic for close quarters. As we take full advantage of it, we fight our way up the apartment building that lies adjacent to the square and provide cover for the men below, taking out the enemy officers and clearing the way for our comrades to move forward. Now heading back down again to the square to link up with your squad and push on to find the major as we fight through the ruined city. Plenty of collapsed buildings, craters everywhere make the city fight ambush central. As we finally manage to clear the surrounding buildings and advance onto the main area, and we come across the heart of the industrial sector. The industrial sector is kind of tough. There's plenty of Germans hiding in and out of the way places and up high and kind of out of the way. Get your hands on a skirt rifle and make full use of it. It helps so much. This section is by no means a breeze, but the challenge is really testing your game skills. If you're not a marksman by this point, you are gonna have a bad time. Fighting through a bunch more warehouses and factories as we go, we manage to link up with some allies as they fight to hold their own patch of ground. Now luckily for them, we're here in the nick of time to save the day, catch up together and clear the sector. Our next mission sees us advancing through the sewers to back up some mates up the block. Making our way through the sewers, getting in the occasional gunfight as we go. The sewer has really great long sight lines, letting me get the most out of my sniper rifle. Finally leaving the sewers, we emerged in the middle of a massive house controlled by the Germans, and I quick skirt my way to freedom. Them having the high angles and all. Once the house is cleared, that's curtains for the mission. As we hard cut to later that day, we are now needed to provide sniper cover for our unit as it assaults a German house. As we deal with the occasional sniper as we go and advancing, and to be expected, the Germans aren't too happy with us being in the neighborhood, so we, in order to avoid the shelling, advance on the house. Taking it would be a whole nother thing though, using the tried and true method of quick scoping and hoping for the best. It's finally time to assault and clear this monster of a building. Dealing with a few pesky machine guns and securing the house, we have but a short brief respite, but now we must hold the house for 10 minutes until our backup arrives. So we managed to get our hands on the Russian anti-tank rifle, the PTR D41. That kinda reminds me of a 1940s Barrett. This section absolutely kicks my ass as it managed to get a checkpoint mid-mission with 10% health. But I employed another classic COD strat. I camped the stairs, so I managed to camp the stairs and grabbed any health of enemies who managed to drop me some, which buys me just enough time to survive until help arrives. Reinforcements arrive and we're on to our next mission, which sees our soldier get promoted and he's now tasked to lead a squad to go destroy a nearby German tank workshop. A tiny fight on our way there, and we see it is an absolute massive area, plenty of high ceilings that you have to contend with also Germans waiting for you behind the tanks on the catwalks above you. Also, I don't know how true to life the scale is of the game, but the Tiger tanks are absolutely massive. They feel monstrous. But after clearing out the office area and the shop floors, we advance forward. After another round of battles through some industrial warehouses and linking up with the main group of our allies, we are now volunteered to be a leader of a tank crew, so we and a few others set out to cause some absolute trouble. The tank combat isn't too bad in this game. All my time spent playing World of Tanks has taught me well. Use plenty of cover and dash in and out when you have to reload. Now this section is both a blast, literally and actually. Lapping up the luxury of fighting tanks on open ground, we now have to come to a ruined town and go street to street dealing with all those pesky panthers that are lying in wait. The game is old school in that there is no way to get health regen on this level, so if you take too much damage, it can feel kind of trial and error. By either skill or dumb luck, I managed to survive this mission and move forward. Sometime later, and we cut back to our American friends in the Battle of the Bulge. We're boots on the ground in Bastogne with a bunch of our buddies and about to go take out some nearby bunkers. The snow reminded me a little bit of Goldeneye for some reason. It's a short and sweet mission that ends with us using an 88 to take out some nearby attacking tanks. Now our next stop on this reunion tour has us back in the boots of our through troop team as we set off in the countryside to hunt down some V2 rockets. After making our way into the area, we need to fight through and clear the bunkers, which by the way are chock full of baddies holding behind walls and doors, so don't be grenade shy and really let them have it. On my little stroll through the woods, I almost get schwacked by 2 MG nests. Now I knew they were coming, but that did not stop me from falling for them. Surviving that fun and joy, we make our way to the V2 staging area. As we pass more machine guns on the way, we hear from our buddies that we don't have quite enough explosives to blow them up ourselves. So our mate in the squad tells us that if we get to the nearby fuel pumps, turn them on, we can use those to make the V2s go boom boom. Heading off in search of the pumps, I become really grenade happy. The tight corners of the bunkers, and really one enemy can take 50% off your health in a flash, so it is very worthwhile to throw a grenade here and there, just to be safe. After we find the fuel pumps and make our way back to the V2s, we set them sky high and finally make our escape. On to our next and final mission, we pick up with our comrade from earlier as he and his men assault the Reichstag. The level starts as we need to clear a path forward for our tanks by taking out some nearby 88mm guns, dealing with a pesky German ambush in the process. Now the buggers are hiding all over the place in this massive ruined building that covers your approach, but after some light heroism and a few quick saves, we free up the tanks and they blow us a path forward to the Reichstag. Moving through the nearby streets and approaching the building itself, we manage to link up with some friendly tanks who take the liberty of lighting up the building for us. There isn't a whole lot of resistance left in the building, just a few stragglers here and there, but one of Alexi's men take the flag to the top and wave it high to symbolize the defeat of the Germans and the symbolic end of the war. Now, going back to play the original game, I feel like they give the player a lot more freedom and a lot less safety. As previously discussed, enemies feel fun to fight because they're challenging while not being frustrating, and your combat performance has a bigger impact on the battles as a whole. Now, the combat, sound design, atmosphere, all amazing. Infinity Ward did amazing with the first entry to the now iconic series. Now, would I recommend it? Absolutely. The gameplay holds up and is absolutely worth checking out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.